The wind that moves across a still pond leaves no mark, yet it changes everything. In the same way, the smallest decision you make at the beginning of your day can determine the shape of your entire life. Most people believe their future is built by grand plans, dramatic moments, or sudden bursts of motivation. But the samurai saw it differently. They believed a person's destiny is forged in silence, in the first decision made before the world awakens. This is where the battle for the self begins. Miyamoto Musashi wrote that the way is in training, meaning that a life of mastery is not determined by what you hope to accomplish, but by the discipline you choose at the start of each ordinary morning. This script follows the story of one man, shaped not by extraordinary talent, but by a decision so small he barely noticed he had made it, yet it changed the entire foundation of his life. Chapter 1. The Breaking Point. Kenji had reached a moment many experience but few admit. Life felt heavy, slow, unremarkable. He woke each day with the quiet sense that something inside him was softening in a way that was difficult to reverse. There was no crisis, no catastrophe, no dramatic downfall, just a gradual erosion of discipline, attention, and identity. He worked, he returned home, he scrolled through distractions, and he fell asleep. His days blurred into one another like an endless winter fog. What troubled him most was the sense that he was living passively, reacting to everything and choosing nothing. His mind felt scattered, his focus fragile, his body dull, and his spirit weary. He had the uncomfortable feeling of being alive but not fully living, as if the essence of who he could be was slipping away in tiny, unnoticeable fragments. One morning, as he sat on the edge of his bed staring at the floor, he realized that the man he had become was not the man he once intended to be. It was in this quiet discomfort that his transformation began. Chapter 2. The Teaching of Musashi. Kenji found himself reading about Miyamoto Musashi, not in search of inspiration, but in search of clarity. Musashi believed that a warrior must win the battle against himself before he can face the world. The external enemy is irrelevant until the internal one is understood. What struck Kenji most was Musashi's emphasis on simplicity. The master swordsman spoke often about eliminating unnecessary things, reducing false desires, and returning to the essence of one's purpose. One particular line stayed with him: "Do nothing that is of no use." These words followed him through the day. They echoed in his mind as he noticed the habits that scattered his attention, the impulses that weakened his resolve, and the countless small behaviors that seemed harmless but silently eroded his strength. Kenji realized that the life he was living was filled with actions that did not serve him. His first task was not to build new habits, but to remove the ones that drained him. The samurai path begins not with addition, but with subtraction. Chapter 3. The First Decision. The next morning, Kenji did something he had not done in years. He sat in silence before beginning his day. No phone, no noise, no distractions, just breath, awareness, and presence. This was not meditation, it was a decision, a moment to reclaim the beginning of his life before the world intruded. This small act seemed trivial, but for Kenji, it marked the return of sovereignty. He understood what Musashi meant when he wrote of the stillness in the midst of chaos. This quiet moment gave him the clarity to set one small, non-negotiable action. He would begin each day with 10 minutes of mindful practice, not for productivity, not for success, but to sharpen the blade of his attention, to reclaim his mind from disorder, and to remember who he was before the noise of the world drowned him out. Chapter 4. The Warrior's System. Samurai discipline was never built on emotion. It was built on structure, on an elegant system that aligned identity, action, and purpose. Kenji realized that relying on willpower alone was the reason he repeatedly returned to old habits. So he designed a system rooted in ancient principles. First, he simplified his mornings. The fewer decisions he needed to make, the more consistent he became. Second, he chose one physical practice each day, not for strength, but for presence. A short walk, breath training, or slow stretching. Finally, he ended each day with a simple reflection inspired by Zen monks. What strengthened me today? What weakened me today? And what can I remove tomorrow? None of these practices were dramatic, but they gave structure to his mind, intention to his actions, and a sense of continuity between his days. He was no longer living at the mercy of impulses. He was sharpening himself with the quiet discipline of a warrior who prepares not for battle, but for clarity. Chapter 5. The Silent Resistance. The greatest challenge Kenji faced was not difficulty, but resistance. The mind resists change, not because change is painful, but because the familiar is comforting. There were days when he woke tired, when distractions pulled at him, when the silence of the morning felt heavy and uncomfortable. These were the moments Musashi called the test of the spirit. True strength is revealed not when everything feels aligned, but when the old identity tries to reclaim its throne. Kenji learned to recognize this resistance as part of the path. He didn't fight it aggressively. He observed it, understood it, and returned to his system. In doing so, he discovered a truth known by samurai and Zen monks alike. Discipline is not the suppression of the self, but the liberation of the self from its own chaos. Chapter 6. The Transformation. The transformation did not happen suddenly. It unfolded slowly, quietly, like the changing of the seasons. Kenji began to notice that the world around him felt calmer, not because the world had changed, but because he had changed. His thoughts were clearer, his decisions more deliberate, his emotions less reactive. He began to act from intention rather than impulse. People around him noticed too. They sensed something different, a grounded presence, a quiet strength, an inner stillness that does not need to announce itself. This is the essence of true power in Japanese philosophy, the kind of strength that is not loud, not aggressive, not attention-seeking. It is the strength of someone who knows his own direction and walks it steadily. Chapter 7. The Way Forward. Kenji's story is not about perfection, it is about alignment. The samurai understood that mastery is not a destination, but a practice. Each day begins with a decision about who you are becoming, not through grand declarations, but through the first quiet moments of your morning. The ancient warriors believed that if you control the beginning, the rest of the day follows in its shadow. Kenji learned this truth not from theory, but from experience. And as he continues to walk his path, he knows that the way of the warrior is not about conquering the world, but conquering the self. In the end, the most powerful transformation begins with the smallest action. A moment of silence, a return to presence, a decision made before the world has a chance to shape you. This is where strength is born. This is where clarity emerges. This is where the path begins.